Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I thought it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about how, as we move towards the autumn winter period, um, looking at how I'm going to protect some of these plants and the locations that I'm going to store some of the potted plants. And some of the plants, as you can see, are in quite big pots. So first of all, I will show you the two spaces which I will move certain plants to, and then I'll explain which plants are basically going there. This is my garage space. So it's a fairly large single garage, reasonable height to it. I'd say probably about 8 feet tall. And luckily there's a window at the back, which is very helpful because some of the plants will come into this area down near the sprayer. They'll be placed there, some of the bigger pots. And I've also got a little bit of space on this side so I can move some of the mowers around. So I'm looking at putting at least 4 of the major pots in here, but there may be some smaller pots which, if it's cold but not too cold, and I want to just get them away from things like snow and things like that, there's always the opportunity to use my suck barrow, which I've got there, and to bring them in from outside. So, example of this are actually the two cordylines which I bought fairly recently, which you may remember from previous video. They're in quite small, lightweight pots, and these two Camerots habilis, which will, again, they're fairly light, so they can move into the garage uh, at fairly late notice. So say I get home from work, temperatures are dropping, potentially kind of below, let's say, a -5 or something. I mean, the two cord lines I can physically just pick up and put in the garage. But the other two I'll probably use the sack barrow for. So yeah, they can go in this space really easily. So I'll show you my next space, which is the greenhouse, and that has a tube type heater, which I tend to keep an absolute minimum there of +5 or 6 degrees on there. So I'll just show you the greenhouse space. So this is the polycarbonate greenhouse, and it's insulated with bubble wrap. And this is the space in here. So a reasonable amount of space. Some of the objects will come out of here, like the gas cylinder and those empty pots. And a lot of these plants, like the tetrapanax, will be trimmed back, so all the leaves will probably come off that. So it's just essentially the main stem. And yeah, they will get put around some of the plants, which are going to go in here. So this Mexican fan palm, which is a single stem one, which survived from a couple of years ago when it was actually part of a 4 stem one, and I basically made it into a triple and then put this one as a single in the pot. As you can see from here, we've got lots of nice new growth on it. The pot is pretty large, it's an 80 litre pot. So that one will go through the greenhouse door, which is also another consideration. So I've got one there. And here is the other two. So these are multi-stemmed ones. They're in, I think, a 60 or 70 litre pot. So it's still quite heavy to lift. We've got that one and this one, which is also in a pot. So those will get put into the greenhouse. These Inseti bananas, which are also, as you can see there, in big pots but sunk in the ground. So the plan is with those is to try and get them as dry as possible, trim off a lot of the leaves. I'm not going to dry store them, I'm going to keep them in the pot remove the lower leaves, just leaving a few top leaves, and they will move into the garage because they're not going to need a lot of light during the winter. So they just need to be basically kept almost in hibernation. So that's one of the Ensetes. And this one is the second one, which again is in, as you can see, is in a very large pot, actually the same size. Top leaf's actually bent in the wind. We've got a new leaf coming up through the middle. So that one will go into the garage. Potentially the Trithomax, I think it is called. Oh, and the cat's there as well. This one again is in a huge pot, fairly frost hardy, but not totally. So it's down to, I think, -7, I believe. So that one will go into the garage. This one, which is the Braha Mater, that will go into the garage. The small ones, again, probably garage, but they may actually go into the greenhouse if I can fit them around the Mexican fan palms. So these colocasia, which are huge, that's my hand next to it. So you can see the size comparison. So those will go into the garage because they're in quite big pots, big ceramic pots, and the whole of the foliage will die back for the winter. So essentially I'm just dry storing it on there. Here we have a Colocasia Madeira, which is a small variety, and an Alocasia, I think they're called, which is getting to a decent size now. Both of these, well, actually, the Alocasia will probably go into the greenhouse where it's going to get plenty of light, and the Colocasia will go into the garage where it will basically die back to the pot. And to be fair, I'll probably pot this into a better pot. It's just in a ceramic one there. There is a few pots which stay out all winter, so the Fatsia does, the hostas will, they just get all trimmed back. This eucalyptus, which is a lemon scented variety, that one will go, get reduced in size a little bit, that will go into the greenhouse, but it's actually in a pot within a pot, so it's easy for me to lift the plastic pot out of there. And the same actually with the bird of paradise, which I showed you. Well, actually I didn't show you, it's over near, I'll go back over this way. It's actually in one of the ceramic pots here, but actually within that is a plastic pot, so that will basically go into the greenhouse, and probably the little dwarf Chinese banana will go into there as well. Other locations in the garden, I have a large shed at the back, which I can put some stuff in there, some plants in there, but there is no windows in there, so it is very dark. So I only really use that for dry storing stuff. And my other location, which I could use, but we do use it for Airbnbers, we have Airbnb guests to stay, is inside the summer house, which does get down to around freezing, and there is some bird of paradise in there and a few other plants, so I could add a extra kind of couple of plants to in there, but it'd have to be quite small. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all these tetrapanax. There's one there, there's another one in a pot over there, and that one's in the ground. That one's quite a big one, so I'll probably just protect the stem on that one, put a bit of fleece or wrapping around the stem, and I will protect the bananas how I protected them last year. So use some of the loft insulation type material, and I will just wrap the whole group So probably up to about this height. So these will get trimmed off kind of about here to allow for, we don't want this to rot back into the main stem. So we'll chop them kind of a little bit longer on there. This will probably be its height when we get into the kind of colder weather. So yeah, so that's the height I will wrap to, which is why a lot of the stems you can see here, this one's not suckering too bad, but this one's got quite free stems on it, which means I can wrap very easily. Whereas my larger banana plant over in the corner, you can probably just see the top of it over there near that massive black cloud. That banana is a lot taller and it's got quite a lot of suckers at the bottom, so I could either chop those back and pop those on, or I can just wrap them inside and what survives. I've got a large Phoenix canariensis, which is this one here. It's a bit weird really because it's in a pot elevated in the border, so it's to give height in this section, but yeah, in order to do that, because the plant isn't that high, I've had to basically elevate it on top of another plant. So yeah, so that one will move into the garage where it will need some light, but it's too big to basically put in the greenhouse. So that's the reason for that location on that one. Other plants that I will protect or not protect in the garden. So I need to make sure that I protect my best palm, or my favourite palm, which is this one. And I will, with this one, because it's got quite floppy leaves, basically I'll pull all the leaves upright, tie at the top, put a bit of fleece around if I need to in really cold weather. And yeah, some of the other things I might lay a bit of fleece across them if I need to. I might put a bit of mulch around some of the cannas just to kind of help those to protect them during winter. But things like the yuccas, the phormiums, and well, a lot of the kind of like what was I saying? A lot of the palms, like the Trachycarpus palms, this one here, and the bigger one at the front, they won't get wrapped at all. So they're very, very easy to deal with, which actually means that I've got then time to protect the few plants that are a little bit more on the edge, make those really decent and look after those, and then all these other ones will take care of themselves. So yeah, so that is sort of the plan for winter. It's a little bit tricky this year because I am away sort of later on in the season, but back before Christmas. So there's potentially some frost while we're going to be away on holiday. So I will have to sort of make a call on whether what I put where, whether I protect things before I go. And hopefully we won't have too lower temperatures. We shouldn't do. It's normally, we might get a few frosts, but they'll be about -1, -2. So that's good if that happens. And then I'll be back by the time the weather really starts to get lower temperatures on there. Also this year I've got a Halloween party going on as well, so trying to obviously set that up around the garden, making sure the garden's where it needs to be for the time of year, and yeah, making sure that I can get everything set up for Halloween, because we have lots of trick-or-treaters coming around who will be looking at the display, as well as a big sort of Halloween party on, we normally do that on a Saturday, so we have lots of friends over for that, friends and family and that. So normally sort of 20-25 guests for that one. And this year I'm hoping for it to be kind of a much more much more, what's the word, in yeah, so swiftly moving on. yeah, it's basically to try and make it immersive, is what I was trying to say. So yeah, trying to incorporate the jungle style garden in with the actual Halloween theme as well. So the garden and the Halloween come together to form a unique experience. So that's it for today. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video.